The four board members that are going to be here this evening, so we will call the meeting to order. Stand and remove your hats if you're able. Great. Let's see. Our first item on the agenda is a couple of district highlights. Kevin, we'll let you take it away.
Sorry about that. Forgot to turn the mic on. Some of you are probably aware of what's called a White Cane Awareness Day. And actually, we had a study session the morning of the planning for that. And we cleared the parking lot for that event. I want to recognize that event because it is an event that is probably for many within our community, an event that goes unnoticed. And I think it does deserve some notice. And that's why I worked on making this a district highlight for today to bring awareness to what goes on here. The credit needs to go where the credit is due, and that is to Brittany Valikoff. Brittany is our teacher of the blind and for low vision learners. And so she has a lot of responsibility in bringing this to fruition. I want to read something, then we have a short video to give you some insight on what took place. On October 9th, the Selah School District proudly hosted our 11th annual White Cane Awareness Day event in partnership with the Northwest Association for Blind Athletes. This annual celebration is a highlight of the year for students who are blind, low vision, or deafblind across our region. This year, we welcomed 34 students from 8 school districts across the Yakima Valley, ranging from kindergarten through 12th grade. Students participated in a full day of adaptive sports, team building, Paralympic style activities designed specifically for blind and low vision athletes. Activities included tandem biking, goal ball, and auditory frisbee golf, all designed to promote physical activity, confidence, and meaningful social connection. One of the most powerful aspects of the event is watching students connect with others who share similar experiences. For many, this day provides a rare opportunity to build friendships, push personal limits, and celebrate their abilities in an environment designed with their success in mind. We are especially grateful for the community of volunteers who rode tandem bikes miles after miles to ensure every student had a chance to participate, as well as Adaptive Star, who generously provided adaptive biking equipment for students with significant mobility needs. This year, we also had a successful location change, moving the event from the middle school to the district office grounds. We received overwhelmingly positive feedback on this transition, as the space offered improved accessibility and functional ability for our day's events. A big thank you to the DO staff for their flexibility in making this space available. It's a highlight each year to host this event, and I am continually reminded of the incredible support we receive from our community and school district. Each year, we hear over and over from our families and staff across the region how thankful they are for Selah in bringing this event and championing students with vision impairments. So that was from Brittany to you and to the public to recognize what happens here annually each year. And now a short video that she and Lincoln Nugent put together about what transpires on this day. So that we definitely look forward to each year. It brings students from across other districts here. And Brittany is right. The highlight is watching the students interact with adults and interacting with their peers from other districts and developing those friendships. So personally, thanks to Brittany for doing this. She is the reason why this happens, and she deserves all the credit. So just wanted you to be aware of that as a highlight. It is truly a district highlight for our district. I'm going to jump right to number 2, and the month of October is recognized across our region, state, and nation as Principals Month, and it's a good opportunity to spotlight the work of our principals, our assistant principals, and principals. Heidi Diner has been sharing a lot of this information out on social media. She put this together just for tonight to make sure that everybody has a name to the face as well as the positions they hold. And so in our school district, we are extremely fortunate to have this team of professionals lead our schools and the work they do and the appreciation they should be receiving, not only during this month, but throughout the entire school year. So.
Thank you very much. And we do definitely appreciate, I'll say I do definitely appreciate the work that went into that White Cane event. It's just the definition of equity is that students get what they need to be able to be successful. And obviously our principals, we're led by some really outstanding individuals. So thank you to those people at the helm of those schools. And while it's October, it's the spotlight on them this month. But they do great work really year round. So thank you very much to those teachers and those principals. All right, the next item on the agenda is public comment. And I believe we don't, I'm just checking with the last person that arrived here, we don't have a public comment this evening. So we'll move to the approval of the meeting minutes for September 25th and October 9th. I move that we approve the regular meeting minutes for the September and October meetings. Is there a second?
Second it.
Great. And is there any comments or questions on the meeting minutes? Okay, excellent. All those in favor of approving the minutes signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed with a nay. And abstentions? Great. We will move on now to the consent agenda, which is series of items that we will approve or not approve as a unit, starting with the Human Resources Action Sheet, moving to the Payroll Goods and Services, a number of first readings of policy updates, a little bit on overnight out-of-state travel request, overnight and out-of-state travel request, some supplemental contracts for certificated staffs, and the last one, item G on the consent agenda, is the cancellation of warrants. I don't think there's a lot on the human resources sheet. Is there anything we need to?
No, I was just going to say, it's pretty light tonight. This is probably the lightest HR action sheet we've had in a long time.
It really looks like a record. Yeah.
It's nice to know though, because we are staffed up as a district. So we're happy about that.
Yeah, very, very stable staffing levels at this point. And for payroll goods and services for October 23rd, 2025.
I
Chris?
just have one highlight tonight, just to reemphasize a point about rising costs. We have our liability insurance billing in this payroll goods and services for $800,647. Just as a reminder to the board, this is one of the areas that is increasing exponentially, over 40% in the last 3 years. So just wanted to highlight that bill. We have to have liability insurance, so, and it is higher. So I just wanted to highlight that one.
Great. Yep. Among several different things that we've seen a drastic increase in, that's one for sure. The next item on the consent agenda is a series of policy updates. I believe all of these are first readings, if I'm correct. So we will have a chance to review these over the course of the next month, and then have the second reading and the vote on adoption or not adoption for these policy updates, starting with 6220 and ending with policy update 5000, which has to do with recruitment, selection, and evaluation of staff. Kevin, is there anything there that you want to draw our attention to specifically?
I'm going to turn the first one over to Chris with regards to 6220. Is that correct?
220 bidder request for proposal requirements. The changes, the threshold changes that are listed in the changes in this policy are federal procurement requirements. They're under the Uniform Grant Guidance, and those have changed, and we're required to change our policy. So.
And then I'll jump in with a series of them. In your policy review for this month, which is attached there, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 policies that are a result of WASDA's work in updating Board of Directors standards for all school boards in the state. And so those all result and they're all revised except for one, and one is a new one, and that is 1821 standards for individual board members. So as board members, that would be an area over the next month that I would definitely take a look at those. How have they been revised? The other one that I would encourage you to take a look at is not a policy, but a procedure. And it's procedure 2020P. It falls within course design, selection, and adoption of instructional materials. If you're aware of the Supreme Court case that was over the summer with regards to opt-out for religious reasons, this is the procedural language that would go in to abide by that Supreme Court case. So it's important that you know that it doesn't fall in a policy, actually. It actually falls in the procedural part of that language. But you'll see that. You'll also know I want to make sure that Hunter and his team is at work for a form to go with that. So parents, when they feel the need to opt out, it goes through the explanation and the form that is needed to verify that. So.
And this is a result of a Supreme Court case that was decided, I think, earlier this year.
Last summer, yeah.
Last summer,
Yeah.
okay. And Hunter, the idea will be that they'll have several different forms or one form with several different options in it?
That's what we're working on now. So currently we have about 5 different forms that for different types of opt-outs, for surveys, refusals for state testing, for just intent to homeschool, and then this. So we wanted to make one form so it's not a family filling out 4 or 5 different forms. We could do it all at once, and also so our administrators who oversee that process, that they are not trying to navigate between 4 or 5. So we're trying to merge language that way it works be consolidated as possible.
And there are some challenges at the classroom level about how this is all going to operate. Will the forms help kind of smooth that process?
Yeah, it'll highlight that because we're not aware of some of the things that people want to opt out is a whole content area, and that would be then more of an intent to homeschool. If it's a specific activity or lesson, that's a little easier. But we can't predict what is in every single text within a student might interact with within a school year or throughout their schooling. So that's what we're trying to tease out in the opt-out form, is to be specific as possible so parents are aware of what they are choosing to opt into or opt out of.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. Are there any questions, other questions about that issue?
So like always, when you get policy in first reading, you do have a month to provide, if you want additional information, if you want to talk about how obviously the procedural, how they're going to be implemented within the schools or within the district. This is that month period to be able to do that before you go through the formal adoption of those.
And I spoke with Kevin yesterday, but as a kind of a pre-meeting to this meeting. That's the worst kind, isn't it? But a meeting for the meeting. And we talked about policy 1820, which is the board self-assessment. And I couldn't remember, it seemed like at one point we were going to do a board. Did we do a board of self-assessment? Did you remember doing that, Jamie? I remember talking about doing it. I can't remember if we went through that process. So that might be something that we'd want to, especially as the new year comes around, that might be a good thing for us to come back and look at, along with 1821, the standards for individual school directors would be ones that I would hope we can pay a special attention to. Okay, our next item is overnight and out-of-state travel requests, and we have Dominic DeClaire going with some DECA students. Is that to Bellevue, I think? Is that right? Heading over to Bellevue for DECA. And then certification of supplemental contracts. This is something that we do yearly, I would say annually. It's not more than annually, I don't think.
Annually, what we do is in September every year, our executive director for human resources, myself, we sit down, we write all the supplemental contracts. 98% of these are driven by teacher contract. And so we work with principals throughout the summer to nail down the people that will be receiving the supplementals based on their positions and the responsibility level. Example would be a special ed teacher that has an IEP, a caseload where they have to write IEPs, they have to fulfill the case manager responsibilities, which are outside their contracted day. That would be an example of a supplemental contract that those teachers would get each year. And there's several things with our nurses. They're required to work so many days in August before school starts and so many days in June after school's out. So they have a supplemental contract to fulfill the responsibilities on both ends. So those would be two examples. You can see the rest are spelled out in detail in this document, and we're recommending board approval of these supplementals for this school year.
Great, thank you. Any questions about those issues? The last one is the cancellation of old warrants, which means we are voiding checks that weren't cashed. Is that correct? Also a kind of a bookkeeping issue?
Yeah, and this is another annual one that we bring to you guys. Any of our old stale dated warrants that haven't been claimed, we reach out to these folks and try and get them to void reissue, but some of these are minimal in dollar amounts, so they just kind of hang out there. And so we're required by the state to turn it over to unclaimed property after a certain time.
Great. All right, that's the full consent agenda. I will move that we approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. Is there any comments or questions on the consent agenda that haven't been asked? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed and abstentions. Great. All right, we now get to hear from our student board representatives. We have both of our junior student board representatives are here. Our two senior board representatives, I think, are probably running right now, right? Or eating oranges after a race, maybe. Do you have anything you'd like to add this evening about how things are going to high school or any other comments? Good. Marion? So what are some of those ideas, Marion? Because there are probably other students that are, in fact, I know because I have some of them, other students that are in a similar circumstance. What sort of things can Running Start students do that will keep them involved with high school? That's a really good idea. Yeah, excellent. The candy especially is a nice move. Okay. Thank you very much for both of you for being here. And as always, I talk fast and we sometimes move quickly. If there's anything you want us to slow down on, if there's any questions you have, please stop us and add your feedback. We really value your feedback and any questions you have. I think you're probably asking questions that other people have as well. So please feel free to do that. All right, we'll move on to kind of the meat of the meeting tonight, which is the Executive Director Report for Student Data and Information. And Hunter's here with us tonight. We've all been sent probably, I don't know, it's been maybe a couple of weeks ago. It might have been right after our last meeting, the PDF report of the data review from the Teaching and Learning Department on 10/23. Hunter, do you want to give us some of the highlights of it or draw our attention to any particular slides?
Yeah, so I mean, I started off with enrollment, just to both total enrollment, and I wanted to highlight that that's our current head count. It's not necessarily our FTE, so enrollment looks a little higher than what you've probably seen from what Chris has maybe presented in the past, but it does give a snapshot into how many kids are actually coming through our building, especially at the high school level where enrollment is split between different programs and such. And then I broke that down by some of our demographic, and I hope that you guys keyed in on how our demographics have changed somewhat over time. One I highlighted was the last kind of program or demographic was our McKinney-Vento number. So I've talked to you guys in years past McKinney-Vento is our homeless students. It's called McKinney-Vento. That number has continued to rise. Currently, we sit at 88 students that are qualified as homeless students in October. And that is what we typically see is in October, it usually almost doubles by the end of the year. Last year, we ended with 94. 5 years ago, we were at I believe it's 20 students, but it's been creeping up each year. And the reason why I want to highlight that, it just shows that the need in our community continues to change year by year. And so that's something as not to make excuse or to say that's put fault on our students or anything, but the needs of our students have changed drastically. And so that's one thing. Well, if you just look at total number, 88 out of 3,700 students, not that big, but when you look at how much that has grown over time, it's pretty drastic. The other area I really wanted to highlight is our attendance rate. Our attendance rate is we want it to be at about 90%. So the attendance rate that you looked at were students that were not considered, had missed less than 10% of the school year. So about less than 2 absences per month. We want that to be about 90% of our students is a good kind of baseline we would want all of our attendance to be at. And we're not close to that currently. And so that's going to be a focus with our families, and do some attendance pushes, because that is such a direct impact to student achievement and student learning. If our students are not at school, they're missing large amounts of time, it's going to be hard for them to be at grade level.
So can I stop and ask you a question about
Yeah.
that? Currently it's around 70% overall for the district. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
And isn't there some number per month where you see just a huge drop off?
Yeah, if it's more than 2 absences per
2.
month, regardless if it's unexcused or excused, that's typically so it's if you missed 10% or more of the year, there's predictors that you're not going to be very successful in school. And so what those bar graph is showing is that's our percentage of students that are coming to school at a consistent basis. So yeah, I think our high water mark, I should pull it up because that's too small for me to look on a screen there. I'll pull it up on my computer. Our high water mark is in 4th grade. It's at 84%. And like I said, before COVID, we were close to 90% or at 90% in some grade levels. That has not come back. Our attendance rate has not come back, and it mirrors our assessment data. As I've started to kind of dig deeper into and do some comparisons to our contemporary districts in the area, for those that our assessment scores are lower, that we should be pretty close to, we're about 10%, 10 to 15%, depending on what grade level we're looking at, lower for achievement rate on assessment. We're 15% lower almost every grade level in attendance.
Right before COVID, the principal, was it Colton right before principal or right before COVID as well? Had some goals to meet, and 90% was the goal, and we were knocking on the door constantly of it.
Yes.
We ever got past it, but put that in comparison with these, and that's a big.
Yeah, it's other districts, their attendance rates dipped just like ours did. Theirs have come back. Ours have not. So that's that. If I did say anything of a concern, one of the biggest thing that's hurting our achievement rates, my prediction would be if our attendance rates get to a level that we'd want, we would see our achievement scores go up as well. Going to our assessments. I guess any questions? Was there anything from the data I needed to clarify that you guys looked at in the report? No.
I had one curiosity, Hunter. Is there any other correlations with the students that are missing 10% or 2 times a month? Any correlations with extracurricular activities? Because it seems like, at least when I was going to school, if you wanted to practice that day, you were going to school that day.
Yeah. So no, I would say it's our students that are not necessarily connected to extracurricular activities. The extracurricular activities don't count. So at first I thought you were asking if extracurricular is causing our attendance rate, but those are excused absences that don't necessarily go into that attendance rate formula. But no, I would say it's our students that are not involved in extracurriculars more so. Yes, correct. Correct. This slide in front of you, the state has moved from looking at threes and fours on the assessment. This was a change they made last year, at least in how they communicated it, that really the last time we do state assessments for ELA and for math are in 10th grade. And that is supposed to show that if they have a 3 or 4, it really means they are ready to start college right then in 10th grade. So they've changed how they want us to look at the data. So really 2, 3s, and 4s are what we would expect our students to be at. So this is the percentages of students that are 2, 3s, and 4s, and this is somewhat comparable to our neighboring contemporary districts, somewhat lower. But then if we look at our 3s and 4s, those are low. It's a concern, and it has been a concern. Some of the causes, I would say, of our assessment trends, I wouldn't say there's one specific cause. Attendance, my personal belief and what data has shown, research has shown, is that's going to be one of the factors, but it's multifaceted. And I look at it, given the context of our district, is a K through 8 kind of analysis of what the causes are, and a 9 through 12, because from what I've seen, there's some different reasonings. So I'll start with the K through 8. About 3 years ago, we didn't have priority standards as a district. We had our state standards. As you guys know, there's a lot of standards that we're expected to teach. You need to be able to focus on what are the most important that would show improvement in learning. So prioritize those. And how that goes is we identify priority standards. What are the most meaningful standards within all the grade level standards? Because you're not going to be able to hit all of them in depth throughout the school year. There's just too many. So you prioritize the ones that have the most impact. Then you unpack those. Then you create learning targets. And then you create success criteria. And then you develop your scope and sequence. So we did that 3 years ago because that hadn't been done before. But we gave complete autonomy to the grade levels because we only had one grade level for the whole district. What we found last year was that some of the prioritized standards, when we're looking at other districts, what they prioritize don't match. And this was something I wanted to address last year, but the state also told us, I told you guys last year, that they were coming out with new standards, that they were going to set the priorities statewide, which is a blessing to know there's no argument matter. This is what we need to be teaching. It gives clarity. We were supposed to have those last year. So we've been waiting to start this process again. The state just told us, so they're about a year late in getting us those new standards. Math is supposed to be coming out with new standards within the next few weeks. ELA standards are supposed to be coming out early this spring of this school year. So that's that's really the kind of the K through 8, I guess, problem or kind of theory of solution to address some of our achievement concerns, our achievement data, is to have those priority standards and start that process fresh and to make sure we are lock, stock, and barrel, making sure we're following those. With that, it's been at least 8 years since we've done an ELA adoption within elementary literacy. One thing that we have seen over time with our elementary literacy curriculum is it's really heavy on reading. And it's very, very light in writing. And our writing scores, when we look at our SBA data, is what's dragged down some of our literacy scores. An emphasis, and it's also more of a framework. It's not necessarily a set curriculum that we can go to say this is what we're teaching on day 10. So it's more of looking for more of a scriptive curriculum could be an option. It's something that we're going to explore. Moving to high school. And the other thing, last year when I presented on data, we presented, when I asked you guys was to have a cohort to follow, because it's hard to say this grade level for this year, that's a snapshot of where they're at in time. So I pulled together a cohort data for our current 9th grade cohort, one, because they have not had any interruptions in testing over the past 5 years. Other cohorts, if we went higher, they had COVID interrupt where they didn't test, or they don't take a test every single year in high school. So this is our trend data for our current 9th grade cohort going back into 4th grade. You You can see we are trending up overall with a high water mark in seventh grade. That seventh grade ELA, that is a consistent phenomenon we see in seventh grade ELA. It's one of our higher achieving grade levels. And then you can see our math cohort. If you go to the next slide, Jennifer, math is trending down. This is also on a statewide webinar. Math has regressed across the district and across the nation and globally. So math is going to be a big push coming out from OSPI. And if I jump to high school of kind of reasons or predictions of why our data is what it is, we have had refusals a little bit higher than the state average. And then when I went and looked at the students who actually refused to take the test, and the state calls them refusals, it's almost 90% of the students who refuse we would have predicted based off our other data that they would have been 3s or 4s in the assessment. So we went from some of our students that if they would have taken the test would have bumped our scores up to really they're dragging our scores down. My prediction was it's about a 10 to 15 percentage point swing in achievement based off of just that 5%.
Are they taking it? I'm thinking we were talking about Marion about running start. Are some of those students that would have scored highly not taking it because they're not coming to the high school, or it's just other reasons?
A few. We don't have a ton of students in running start.
Right.
More of it is a belief that I don't want my student to take the test.
Yeah. Okay.
And we have that's one of the opt-out forms we talked about earlier that we're going to try to consolidate. But if we want our data to show most accurately and positively, it's getting as many of our students to test as possible. Some of the other kind of factors within the high school data is it's not a requirement to graduate anymore, and kids know that. And it's hard to say that you have to do this assessment when they see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're like, no, I've already completed my graduation pathway. And we also have a lot of data that shows our kids are being really successful. One, where we're graduating at a high rate. Two, they're going to post-secondary options at a higher rate than average, and they're persisting at a higher rate than average. So one assessment it's important for us to look at. It's not the end all be all. We do have some urgency to make some changes with our standards and potentially our curriculum because it is not to say it's not a concern. It absolutely is, and it's something that we're aware of. Yeah.
So if I'm summarizing, at elementary school, some of it's curriculum that might be adopted, especially at the younger ages that has more focus on writing. Some of it is clearer priority standards set by the state,
Yep.
which will get us on track with everybody else in the area. And then at the high school, some of it's not taking the test or not taking it seriously.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing with high school too is we intentionally moved to we wanted student choice and student options built into the high school experience. And with that, we went to a trimester system on a 5-period day. The logistics of how that plays out is you might not take math. You're not going to take math all year long, and you're not going to take English all year long. So you could be taking a test that you're not even in that class anymore, or you haven't gone through the full scope and sequence that you would have if you had been in a year-long class. The positive of that is we have a lot more options that kids can explore, earn different credits, earn dual credits. Our district, for our size, has more dual credit opportunities, and 67% of our students at the high school a year ago earned dual credit, which is head and shoulders above our contemporary districts. So it's a give and a take. We could go to a more traditional schedule. The choices and options would be more limited for our students, and the amount of credits that the kids could take with them onto post-secondary would be less. So that's an intentional choice that our high schools made that I would argue is a good one.
So could it be possible that even like the CTE, for example, that's going to be more driven towards let's say a math base, and so they don't have as much English, or could that hurt some of our scoring in theory?
Yes. Yes. But the one, as I was diving into this data, the one kind of anomaly I noticed, our CTE applied math actually had a higher achievement rate than our traditional math within the algebra setting, which also lends to hands-on, like lecturing doesn't really necessarily work for teenage students. The hands-on, so there isn't one clear way I would say, yep, this is causing it. There's a lot of different factors that go into it. Yeah.
Other questions or comments?
Comment from me. This is just, I mean, it's very high level. And what it was done for, and Hunter and I spoke about this, is to provide a whole bunch of different type of data and then allow you to choose if there's specific data that you want Hunter and his team to look into. So you also got some disciplinary data as well, enrollment data, demographic data, student achievement data. If there is anything in there that you would like, we can make that happen for data report number 2, which would be in a couple months, likely.
Following the cohorts is very effective. If we see every time, and I'm not naming names, but get to a certain grade level for a certain subject, and that's where every time you kind of see that,
Yeah.
then we know that it's potentially teaching issue, or we start rearranging stuff from there.
Yeah.
That's going to be helpful.
Yeah.
For us.
And I can also, summer slide is something I've usually talked about. So I could do a few different cohorts, more of like a younger elementary cohort that would be more internal data with our iReady. And then I could do like the ninth grade cohort if you wanted to look at a couple different cohorts to see. The one thing with our curriculum within elementary as well, what we notice is it's very light on foundational literacy skills. So phonemic awareness and phonological awareness, we've had to supplement that with other curriculum, which is part of the reason why I said with the new standards coming out, it might be time to look at, is there a curriculum adoption to consider?
At a really high level, Hunter, is there a trend away from these kinds of standardized assessments, or are states, I mean, nationally, are states still as committed to these kinds of assessments as they were, going back 20 years or so?
Yeah, but Kevin might be able to answer that question better than I.
It seems like there's been a little bit of backing off of how much we put into reading these.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Is
think
that accurate?
that's fair, and I think that's a nationwide trend, and it maybe even get more so with the changes with the Department of Education. So remember, our state assessment requirements are based on federal assessment requirements. Our state has made choices with regards to how they're going to meet the federal requirements, but if there are lessened or no federal requirements for state assessments, then you may see some changes. This is state testing and standardized testing is very cyclical. And many of us older, like me, can remember all students going to the auditorium, which used to be right over there, and taking a test all together. And that was found to be not real productive. And so we went away from state standardized testing for a long, long period of time in education. Then we focused on especially high school students taking ACT and SAT testing. So there was a huge emphasis on that. And that was at a time where the idea was to get all students into college and university level. We found that wasn't really going to work real well. And it's now turned out that we have a lot of students in debt for that idea. We then navigated our way through our state with regards to the WASL and those type of things, and found that really was not the way to do things. And now we are, how many years have we been in the SBAC? We are now what, 10?
Over 10.
Over 10, 12
And there was
years.
also the HISP and MSP
Right.
exams in between the WASL and SBA.
So I'm not sure where the next cycle is, but there for sure, when the smarter balance in our state was used as a graduation requirement, I think we can all look back as our student achievement data based on that test, it was a lot higher. And since that change in our state to not have that be a required completion of that assessment and bringing in all the other ways that students can meet graduation requirement, our scores have gone down for a variety of reasons, that not being the only reason, but there are a variety of reasons. And so I do see the assessment of use of a standardized test, the pendulum swings back and forth as with lots of things within public education. And I would not be surprised if we see at a time and place where states are not going to be required to have standardized assessments anymore.
Yeah, it's very helpful to compare, like, as you said, to districts that are in our area. I mean, I think that's really useful to kind of see, where we are in comparison to them. Yeah, it has its value for sure. These standardized tests do. But I also like that you've included here other data points. There were some great data points that came from the ERDC last year about, as you said, persistence in higher education, number of people that get degrees after graduation, how many high school credits are earned in college credits, which were in the top 12 in the whole state compared to districts much larger than ours. So there are a lot of ways to slice it. But I do think there's a lot of value in looking at these. It used to be Common Core, the SBA, right? Smarter Balance. And it's all Pearson, I guess, when you look right down to the bottom of it. I really appreciate this data, Hunter. I know we all do. And we look forward to seeing what the next report looks like.
Awesome.
Do you want to say anything about referrals?
Yeah, I hope that you noticed that our referrals have ticked down this year. And I know just from a very informal perspective, when I walk into schools, I'm in schools every single day, it feels calmer. Even our special cohort that's in fourth grade, you can see the referrals have gone down as comparison to last year. So our systems are working. You can also see somewhat cohort data, seeing that cohort come through. If you looked at previous years from kinder to JCP to SIS, they have gone down. So our behavioral systems are supporting our students and our.
Yeah, it sure looks like that. I mean, if you were to draw trend lines, those are fantastic
Yeah.
on referrals and behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Excellent. Thank you very much, Hunter. We are now, let me get back to my agenda here, at the enrollment update, and we've seen a little preview of where we are with enrollment. Chris, do you want to give us the rest of the enrollment update?
Okay, as a reminder, back in September, when we projected enrollment earlier during budget season last year, we projected 73 FTE lower than what the projection was for the prior school year. And we use a cohort survival method it's a statistical method looking at the survival rate from one grade to the next for all kids. So we ended up with a projection. We felt based on our numbers and our smaller class sizes moving through the system, we would drop our projection by 73. So I'll start with that. In September, we came out of the gate we were 50 over our projected enrollment. We were basically as of the October count, we are 37.5 over projection. So when you look at that, and as a reminder with our projection, those are the numbers we use to drive the amount of staff that we hire. Especially in our basic education program, we use our projected enrollment. That's what drives funding for staff. So we staff our district that way. And then in October, we're sitting, like I said, 37 over projection. If you look down the line on the report that's in the board docs, you can see that kindergarten is 9 under projection. John Campbell is almost 11 under projection. SIS is just 2 over projection. Middle school's 15 over projection, and the high school's 32 over projection. And then we have some online numbers where we're over at our 912 online program. Anyway, nets down to the 37 over projection. And as a reminder, we do see enrollment declines slowly over the course of the year. It's not uncommon. Pretty much all high schools all high schools that I know of lose enrollment during the school year. It's inevitable. But we're sitting in an okay place right now. Our projection method has been statistically sound over the years. We normally land pretty close to what our projected number is, and we're actually funded based on year-end average of our enrollment. So that's when we project enrollment, we're assuming that that's going to be our right around our year-end average for enrollment. So they take all the school months and we end with a year-end average. So that's where we're at. Just a couple other notes. Our CTE, FTE is running over projection right now. Our special ed population that we're serving at this point in time, we're serving 505 FTE in our for our special education group. We're 11 over projection there. TBIP, which is Transitional Bilingual Instructional Program, we're running 27 over projection. And we're right on target with our transitional kindergarten and so on and so forth. So we're sitting pretty good right now. Any questions on that?
We're still open at all grades.
We're still open to, well, of course, we take all residents. We never close to residents, but for non-resident students that apply to come here, it's an application process. We are open unless we see significant discipline problems or attendance issues that are problematic. And so there's the board policy stipulates how we do
Right.
that.
So we've been open K-12, I feel like for the last couple of years, pretty consistent.
Yes.
And I know several years ago, we would be like closed at the high school. Or
Yeah.
So are we seeing an influx of out of district students?
We're
being open, helping enrollment?
we're pretty consistent on our numbers year to year for out of district students coming in. What's happening with our enrollment, like most of our neighboring districts, is the kindergarten numbers are coming in lower, and then we have these smaller classes moving through our system. So we can see that down the line. We can see as these small classes move through, our total enrollment's going to continue to, we ran it out 4 or 5 years, and we're losing about 1.8%, 1.7 to 2% of our enrollment every year.
This past year, we have had an increase in the amount of families from out of district that would want their child to attend the high school and start there as a ninth grader. A little bit more so with requests, some from private schools and some from public schools. So that would be something I would say that at our high school specifically, we've seen increase in the request to go there. Some of those have not been able to be filled because we have a larger population in the ninth grade. And so, but others that went through the process, filled out the forms and got all the information and met with administration were able to get spots when they were available.
Chris, do we have any way of tracking how many in-district students are attending other open district?
Migration rate in and out, right? We do have record of those. They get released to go to other districts. So there's paperwork. Kevin signs those, and the new superintendent where they want to go signs. And so we have a record of that.
Data basically says it's somewhat equal between the two.
And not necessarily increasing or decreasing. It's sort of standard from what and Chris, for the 37 that were over, does that make a difference in the year-end budget? That obviously is going to help us at the end of the year for the budget. Do you know, does that have any number that we can put on that?
If we were to land 37 over projection at the end of the year, that'd be 370,000. We get about 10,000 per FTE. But in a normal year, we would lose 25 to 35 FTE over the course of the year. We're
But
probably
we're not
going to
going to
land
end up at 37. We won't end at that. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Okay, great.
We would all welcome that if that did happen.
Yeah, sure. Let's hang on to those
Happy,
students. Yeah.
The data says, the trend data says that doesn't usually happen.
Right, right. Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, we'll move on to the superintendent update. Kevin.
We are in the midst and almost done. Tomorrow will be our last day. It's of safety week, although safety is a priority, obviously, for the entire year, but we recognize safety week and do a lot of communications during this week. We do a lot of drills during this week as well. And actually, yesterday, I was not able to be involved, but Chris represented the district office along with other folks. We partnered with the Covenant Church and did a reunification drill where a small group of students and families played out as actors. And then our partners in safety, we had representatives from the fire department, other representatives from other services.
City.
City was
Police.
there, police department, and we did a reunification drill of what it would be like if we had to move our students to a different location. And the Covenant Church is a location that was identified, and there's been some work with partnering with them in case of, and so we had to at least go through the process of seeing what would happen. And according to Joe and Chris, there was lots to be learned about that, just actually going through it with even a small amount of students. We learned about some perspective from parents that were part of that. We learned that you can never plan for a one-lane road closure at the time you're doing this on McGonigal, which actually there was a construction one-lane road closure that we had to navigate at the same time this was going on. But it was a beneficial drill, and now that expands. That was the high school drill, and now we'll expand into the other buildings and doing these reunification drills as well.
Was the idea that you had kids bust from the high school up to Covenant Church in McGonigal?
Yeah, and then practice with a small group of how that happens, and then practice with really the most important is how do you get the student to the parent in a way that needs to be done appropriately. Yeah. Chris was there, so Chris, anything else you want to say about
I
that?
just thought that it was nice to have our partners there, the fire department, Selah PD, and parents that showed up to volunteer to be part of the process with their students. That was nice to see, because they also heard how chaotic typically when these situations happen, how chaotic it is. And for the people that are in key positions for the school district to lead this effort in an emergency, they've got to be cool, calm, and collected, which is very difficult, right? But the Selah PD made a really good point that if stress is hard for you and you're not able to stay calm to get through it, then you probably better volunteer and say you're not really ready for the job. But it was well done. Appreciated it. The ESD 105, the SOC, which we're part of for our safety, they were there and they were instrumental in the process as well.
Chris Whedon came and
Yes.
yeah, great.
Yeah. Another thing, and this is these types of drills are also part of our overall safety plan. That we do have the school-based drills, as probably many of our parents are aware of, about comes through on Parent Square and all that, so forth. We are leading up to a much larger drill, and that will take place after school is out, where we have potentially an active shooter situation, and then drill that and allow our partners to drill at the same time and use the resources we have and make sure our communication, which is always the challenge, all the other things we've done, all the mapping we've done, be able to use those in a drill format. And so you're going to hear more about a full, what the professionals in this area, which is our partners with SOC and then police department, sheriff's department, is a full-scale drill. And so that full-scale drill will be after school is out, but we'll use the middle school as our site to have that full-scale drill. It could include, partners from the hospital, Washington State Patrol, anything that would be a partner that would respond to a pretty significant event at a school. We're going to be invited in. So our city, our public works will all be there. It could be people responding to the drill where they would be not just staged at the school, that actually having to go and respond to it. And then how our law enforcement partners would go into the school and practice what they have been taught about going into schools and dealing with threats. More to come on that. So that's Safety Week. Parent Conference Week, next week, that follows it up. Please remember, Parent Conference Week includes some half days, early release days in order to get the parent conferences done. I know that does create some confusion because it is out of the normal way that we do school during the week, but we view parent conferences as one of the most important things we have for parents to be able to get insight on how their individual student is doing. So know those are going on. Amazingly enough, it's the October board meeting, which means October is almost over. And before you know it, we will be at the end of the first trimester, signifying the end of a third of the school year. So we get into the scheduling of non-traditional 5-day school weeks approaching in November, as we have Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, and then we get into the Christmas holidays. So just know that all those are going on. They're very traditional, very annual things that we do. I also want to remind you that it also brings about in the months of November and December is that we have single meetings in those months. So one board meeting per month, and those meetings are in the middle of the month. That's my report. Anything else?
I had a quick question, Kevin, and I didn't plan on this, but I see a refresh of the Viking Promise in the back of the room.
Yeah, so you'll see the poster on the wall used to be the poster that was turned the other way in a landscape, and that was the ship, and that's been replaced from Viking Promise 2.0 and the work that a lot of us have done, the board included, last year of going through that with Hunter and I charged Hunter with his great artistic abilities, really his ability to navigate technology a lot better than I, to be able to put something and that was going to be easily to read and easily to understand, and really spoke about something that we're all consistent with, and that is Vikings. And so, Hunter, anything to say about the work you've done with that?
No, we'll just so that's just the main graphic visualization of the Viking Promise. We'll have by the end of the year we'll have more visualizations for each core pillar, the 4 pillars that will be built out. They'll look similar, but I have a little more detail.
Yeah, especially with student experience, because that really is our new area that we want to focus on. But you will start to see those. Heidi just received 200 of those posters today, and so we'll be able to start to get those out and replace the Viking ship one with the new 2.0 one.
Yeah, I hadn't even seen that poster yet. So
Looks
cool.
great.
Yeah,
Looks
thank you.
great.
Brand new.
All right. Any other questions for Kevin? Board communications? I have a couple of I got the Viking Promise one done. Tonight's read and treat I think at JCP and Robert Lintz Elementary. So the teachers are staying late tonight to do some reading with families and kids. And I understand there's snow cones in one of the classrooms. So if people are interested, they could just walk over. Actually, I think it might be in a half an hour from now. So maybe after you go home and get something to eat and come back down and get some candy from Robert Lintz. And is it JCP as well?
It's all elementary, but hosted at JCP.
Oh, nice. Oh, so I shouldn't go over to Robert
I don't
Lintz?
believe it's at Lintz as well, is it?
The reason I ask is I was at Robert Lintz today, had a wonderful visit, a school visit. I encourage our board members to make sure that we're making those school visits. It is obviously a responsibility of the board members to do those things, and it's just a treat. I mean, not a candy treat. It's a spiritual treat to go in and a morale treat, I guess I should say, to go in and see how incredibly hard those teachers are working, the people working in the lunchroom, the parapros out at recess. I went into the self-contained classroom. I saw the dual classroom. Irena is doing an amazing job there. She has another an admin intern this year, which is very helpful for her, but also I think growing some of our own talent as we go through this process. Anyway, Robert Lintz is doing great work this year. They're off to an awesome start. I oftentimes think it's 5 minutes into a visit, I wish everybody could see the schools. Everybody could go into the schools because they would feel a lot better about things. There's a lot of kind of negative chatter. It's really easy to kind of, pick isolated incidents and say, oh, this thing's really bugging me. And those are important. But the big picture is when you go in, you're just impressed by how much love and dedication our teachers, our administrators, and our staff put into every day when they're there. I felt super hopeful after going to visit them. And I'm going to go visit JCP tomorrow. I know I'll have the same experience there. So that's my board communication.
Clarification, Read and Treat is at Lynch. It's all elementary. It's at Lynch, not at JCP.
Oh, nice. Okay, excellent. Great building. I just love going in that building too. It's such a nice brand.
Yeah, and then they also, this is all parent engagement stuff. So the three elementary principals decided instead of doing events separately, they do them all together. It has provided some benefit. The next one after tonight is at SIS, and that's the Polar Express
Correct.
of family event. So
Great. I love it when families get to come. YVC has just started to have family nights. And I think that makes so much sense to involve the community that way. And obviously for our school district, families are the absolute heart of the whole thing. So I think that's terrific. And I think that's all I have. Anybody else? Okay, excellent. Our next meeting isn't for a month. Is that right? A little less than a month. 13th of November.
13th November.
All right, and thank you for the people that are here this evening, and thank you, Hunter, for your presentation. All right, with that, the meeting is adjourned.